What's up everybody? Tommy here, Math Productions, and this video I'm going to cover 11 specific tips specifically for beginners. So everything's going to be within that initial tutorial portion of the game when you start off as a miner for Argos before you get thrust into the main story with Constellation. But we're going to talk about 11 specific things. I'll probably end up talking about a few other things. This is not a guide on how to go through the tutorial portion of the game. This is again specifically intended to be a couple basic tips for beginners when you're starting out the game to hopefully make it a easier transition from not knowing at all what you're doing to having a little bit of an idea of what you're doing, so maybe you'll have a little bit more fun moving forward, right? But getting right to it, the game starts out, you're descending into a mine. The established portion of your backstory is that you're working with Argos extractors, obviously at this mine, and this is your job. Every other bit of your backstory, though, is going to be entirely up to you to craft. We will talk about character creation and a couple more points, but really the only thing that is established is you're a miner. So tip number one, gather your basic resources. That's your job, right? That's what you're there to do. That's how you're entering into this world, and the game will prompt you for, I think it's 5 specifically that you have to break when it teaches you the mechanic of how to use the cutter. But as you see on screen, if you double back towards closer to where you began the tutorial, there is a ton more resources that you're able to harvest. So at this portion of the game, you're not carrying enough that it's going to matter if you're carrying additional resources. And literally, like it would be implied saying this is your job, if you have resources, when you get into a settlement or anywhere with a vendor, you can trade your resources for credits, right? So point 2, before you get to the actual artifact, which is going to take us to the next stage of the tutorial, if you go off to the left before going across that bridge, there is an additional cave where you can get some additional last minute ore resources. Obviously on the way here, you're going to see these naturally as you're on your way towards that quest marker. Go ahead and grab those. There's a bunch of them on the outside. There's quite a few on the inside walls as you head in. And then eventually when we get towards the artifact itself, there is a much more rare, i.e. much more valuable resource that has quite a few nodes that you could, if you wanted to, extract all of them. I only grab a couple of them here just to show off, like these 2 right here. But there is quite a few more than what I actually extract here on screen. There is quite a few more that you could get all across that back wall. They do take longer to extract for the ore to break, but like I said, they are more valuable whenever you trade them for credits with the vendor. But ultimately, this takes us up here to our first artifact. This is where we get the first bit of fun, extra out there sci-fi, outside of the setting itself, right? But those elements, this is where they get introduced in the tutorial. Obviously, it's very early on in the game. You get to experience it. You have no idea what you experience, and then you wake up, and this is what's going to lead right into the character creation. Before that, we'll get one last little cinematic portion that is Lynn and Heller waking us up, telling us that was crazy, we're glad you're alright. And the thing that Heller is holding is a data pad basically, and he ends up asking you if anything on there, which is your file, quote unquote. He asks you if anything in your file looks familiar, and that's what launches the character creator. So I'm just going to go through it quick. I use a basic template that I feel like is one of the closest likenesses for me. So obviously this specific won't have anything to do with you, and it does not impact the game. You can go to, I can't even recall the name of the company in my off the top of my head right now, but in the game they're literally like in every major settled city. I think it's called Enhanced, but I don't want to say that, but You can change your look. This part you can't change, your background and your traits. So number 3, take your time, because you cannot change those after you've created your character unless you start a brand new character. So think about what kind of character you want to play, and then choose the appropriate background and traits for that. They do add a little bit to the game with boosts and stuff like that, but in my opinion, they do not outweigh just having a character that you enjoy playing roleplay wise. And number 4, explore for lore. While I'm talking about your kind of character lore and your background and enjoying the character you're playing, definitely take your time here at the beginning of the game to explore. Specifically, there's notepads from Lynn and from Heller, and they'll tell you more about what's going on with Argos and this mining team, with their personal relationship. And those are the things, in my opinion, that really make the game stand out and make it as good as what I think it is it feels lived in. These characters feel like they could be real, and it's finding those notes that actually gives you that information that you wouldn't otherwise have access to. It would feel less full and robust and more hollow. Number 5, hollow or not, you can steal that person's food. So if you're playing with sustenance on or off, it could be vital, I guess. That's like the earliest portion of the game where you're able to access food and drink. But I also find it funny. I don't know if maybe it's just because of where you're at in the tutorial that you don't get in trouble for stealing their food or drink. Anywhere else in the game that you steal somebody's food and drink, they're gonna get mad at you. I guess maybe not like your companions, like if they somehow had food out, but anyone else, they're getting mad. Number 6, this is how to access the photo mode early in the game. There's tons of cinematic, in my opinion, esque like shots, if you will, scenes, visuals. But until you have access to pull up your scanner and then quickly access the photo mode, it can be kind of frustrating trying to figure out how am I supposed to take beautiful in-game pictures of what I'm seeing right now. If you just go to if you press start and go to the pause screen, so press start twice, so that way you can get to actually where you can quick save, load, go to your settings, all that. There would be a setting in there for photo mode, and that is how you can access the photo mode before you have access to the scanner. Yeah, not like a huge gameplay impactful tip, and that tip's not really relevant later on, but I like to chronicle my character's journeys through the screenshots or whatever. So like taking a picture of the first time I meet Barrett, Lynn, Heller, all that, it's cool in my opinion to be able to take those pictures early. As you saw on screen, if you like the video so far, I hope you press the like button. And if you've liked the video so far and pressed the like button, I hope you consider pressing the subscribe button. It helps the channel out a lot. Make sure you don't miss out on any of the Starfield content that we've already got out and that we've got planned on the way. You could even go a step further and press the notification bell so that way you can see it right when it comes out, right? I know my posting schedule's fairly erratic. It's really just I try to tailor it around working full-time, as well as being a father of a 7-year-old and a 9-month-old. So I play where I can, I edit where I can, I post when I can. Luckily, I do all that process on my phone, literally, so it makes it way more convenient, right? But back to the game, the pirates attack, we take them out, talk to Barrett, we get the watch, we get on the ship, and we try to head back to the lodge, right? Well, number 7, we're going to talk about inventory management briefly. This is where you can first access some form of storage, permanent storage, for your character. We've grabbed all those resources. If you took your time looting through the base, then you got tons of extra stuff there. And we are going to a portion of the game where you're going to want more carrying capacity. So go ahead and offload all those extra goods that you don't actively need into your ship's inventory. When you land at a ship technician, normally there's a trade authority kiosk right there, and you can literally sell those items right off the ship without having to put them back in your own inventory. But when you finally get up into space, you do get the first ship flying, ship combat tutorial. So for number 8, we're just going to talk basic ship combat basics. But if you notice on the user interface, lower left corner, that's where it shows you your speed, how fast you're going. It took me a while to realize there's that little white bar in like the center of the line section, and that's where if you keep your throttle in the middle of that area, that's going to give you the best combination of speed and maneuverability. If you raise it higher, you'll go faster. If you raise it lower, you'll go slower, but that will impact your ability to turn and maneuver. Super important whenever you're fighting one or multiple combatants. Stage 1, unless you have the piloting skill through a initial background perk, you're not going to be able to use your thrusters for any additional maneuvering, so I'm not really going to go into any detail about that. Just wanted to point out that speed does greatly impact your ship's maneuverability. Yeah, so after we take out those pirates in the tutorial, we land on this moon here. Little tip number 9, whenever we're talking about combat, this time ground combat, always use range to your advantage. Whether you're playing increased difficulty or survival, or like how I like to play Starfield, where the damage you take from each individual hit is greatly increased, range will always be your friend. Number 10, we're going to talk about shortcuts, where ranged attacks might feel like a shortcut at times, even though it takes a little bit longer on the clock. There are actual shortcuts in the game. Had we got a jetpack looted off of a enemy at some point, and had we been able to put a perk into the boost pack ability, that spot that I just jumped on right then and there could have made it, and we would have skipped this entire dungeon. But number 11, save early and often. Whether you take fall damage and your character goes down, or whether you're playing via the cloud and your game crashes, save early, save often. I hope these tips help.